Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying the quiet part out loud. This has been going on for a while. Every time the Republican Party is desperately trying to cut a social service for the masses, and Democrats or leftists or liberals call them on it, they immediately go, oh, you're just a crazy, deranged Democrat. You've got Trump derangement syndrome. None of that stuff is going to happen. You're just crazy. You're hysterical. Come on. You're hysterical about this stuff. And then a few months later, they actually do the thing that liberals were screaming about. And then they move on because they've already moved on to the next social service they're going to cut. Anyway, we've got Scott Bessent. He is here on Breitbart. Breitbart used to be a Nazi adjacent site, and now they're just part of the mainstream. Anyway, let's see what old Scott has got to say about this new social service that he wants to cut.
Mostly African-American men, construction workers, playing the lottery. Mister, when I win the lottery, will you manage my money for me? And I was sitting there thinking, and I tell them, the best thing you could do is save that $20. Now, with these accounts, they can be part of the system. What if they had put that?
What he's talking about, the account he's talking about, is this new thing that Donald Trump, it's not really new. It's kind of like this baby bond thing where the government gives you $1,000 to put into a money market account or something that could be traded on the stock market. It gives you $1,000, and you are able to contribute up to $5,000 a year to put in this account. So when the kid becomes of a certain age, we don't know what that age is going to be yet, but it could be 18, be 21, 25, 30 years old. But it has to be used to either go to school or to start a business. And that sounds all good in theory, as it is. But one of the downsides is that it is used on the stock market to trade. And that increases a bit of volatility when it comes to this money. Also, the fact that most Americans can't afford to be dumping $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year into a business or college account for their children as time goes by. So what it ends up being is a kind of an interesting little tax deduction, a tax shelter, if you will, for the very wealthy people that can actually afford to put that money in. So Scott Bessent here, or is it Bessent or whatever, I don't care. But Scott Bessent is, he says he's talking to some African-American, construction workers. And the construction workers like, hey, man, you're the Treasury Secretary. If I hit the lottery, can you, you invest my money? I think they were just joking around with him. But, he's acts serious. He goes, well, what you can do is put it in these like baby bond kind of things. And, it's different than a baby bond. I believe that was a Cory Booker thing from a few years ago. But this one is not directly injecting money into the stock market to be played with by stockbrokers. Anyway, that was the backstory for this. So let's, let me back it up just a touch and listen to him again.
Mostly African-American men, construction workers, playing the lottery. Mister, when I win the lottery, will you manage my money for me? And I was sitting there thinking, and I tell them, the best thing you could do is save that $20. Now, with these accounts, they can be part of the system. What if they had put that money in the S&P or in Bitcoin or anything? So we're making people part of the system. We are increasing financial literacy. I think that
making people part of the system, put all your money in the stock market and see what happens. Sure, what could go wrong? I mean, I'm just thinking back 2007, 2008. Hey, why don't you put your retirement into this into this kind of futures trading thing and see what happens. And then a million people lose their houses in the real estate crash of 2008.
Every school, I think that at Treasury, we are going to push with these accounts that if you have the account, we want you to learn about it. We want you to understand it. We want, it's almost like, if you get a pet, you understand everything about your pet. So
Strange
if
analogy.
you have these accounts, like, why are you investing it this way? How are you doing it? How can you understand the power of compound interest? And also at the end of the day, that I'm not sure when the distribution level date should be. Should it be 30 and you can buy a house? Should it be 60? But in a way, it is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security.
What was that? Republicans do be loving privatizing things. And we have been saying for quite a while now that Donald Trump wants to privatize healthcare, which it already kind of is, but he wants to privatize Medicare. You talk to your retired mother, father, grandparents out there, and they're already complaining about having to buy Medicare Part D because that is a privatized part of healthcare. And then you got your Medicare for, your prescription drug plan. And it's just cutting the legs out from underneath of this social safety net that was Medicare. And, we've been saying, hey, Donald Trump wants to privatize Social Security. It's not like it's the first time this has ever come out. George W. Bush was like, I went down to the Social Security office and, all I saw was a whole bunch of IOUs. We need to privatize Social Security. Well, here they are actually saying the quiet part out loud, even though Donald Trump said in his campaign in 2023 and 2024, I'm not going to privatize Social Security. I'm not going to touch your Medicare. And here we are, touching Medicare, touching Medicaid. And we got Scott Bessent saying it's a backdoor to privatizing Social Security, saying the quiet part out loud. So, he kind of overstepped his bounds a little bit, and he really wasn't supposed to say that. So this interview at Breitbart caused a stink. So now he is on CNBC with the money boys over there, and they give him an opportunity to clean it up a little bit. Let's see what he's got to say.
Did people misunderstand that some of your comments and extrapolate it to Social Security?
Wait, hold on. Extrapolate to Social Security? You heard the guy. Let's just, fuck, while we're bullshitting, let's just repeat exactly what he said here. Exactly what he said.
Understand the power of compound interest. And also at the end of the day, that I'm not sure when the distribution level date should be. Should it be 30 and you can buy a house? Should it be 60? But in a way, it is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security.
Okay, you heard him. Backdoor to privatizing Social Security. Is it some way that you misunderstood what he had to say?
Okay. Or was that actually something you're thinking about, the privatization?
No, it was ridiculous. I was giving an interview, and I was talking about the $1,000 baby bonds that every American citizen, every newborn is going to get.
You are a stuttering, bumbling buffoon. God damn, man! They extrapolated, and I was just and let me squint my eyes a little bit more. There's no way. There's no way you could have. I didn't say backdoor to privatizing Social Security.
The Democrats hate this program because it brings capitalism and markets to every American.
No, honey, it doesn't bring capitalism and markets to every American. It's a sop for wealthy people to stash copious amounts of cash into an account that will mature later on down the road for their wealthy child, not for common everyday people who can't afford to put $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year into a baby bond account for their precious little poor child. Jesus Christ.
Not just their constituents at the upper end, and
yes, for
over
those
time,
people.
the compounding is going to be an incredible supplement to Social Security, not a replacement.
Honey, you did not say supplement. You said backdoor to privatizing Social Security. You are pissing on my leg, and you were telling me, is that rain? Just wanted to show you this. This is the productivity versus the pay gap. Ever since the, we had pretty much a steady line of productivity and pay. And in the late 60s, when Richard Nixon took office, the minimum wage used to follow every year. The minimum wage would go up a little bit because of inflation. So it would track. After Richard Nixon back in 68, it started to diverge because the minimum wage was cast in stone, and then productivity continues up. Productivity is kicking ass, man. Kicking all of the ass. Meanwhile, our pay stayed the same. And then it really kicked into gear with Ronald Reagan. You see how it dips in the early 80s. So, we are not making the money that we should be making. Here's another interesting article I wanted to show you. This is from Bernie Sanders, so, it's going to be lib-coded out there, but I'm going to back it up with some facts after this, just in case. These are facts, but just in case you don't believe old Bernie. New study, nearly $80 trillion redistributed from the bottom 90% to the top 1% since 1975. As Republicans prepare legislation to provide more tax breaks to billionaires with massive cuts of programs working families need, Senator Bernie Sanders today highlighted a new report from the nonpartisan Rand Corporation. And by the way, I don't know how nonpartisan they are. The Rand Corporation, notoriously right-leaning. So, okay, maybe they're nonpartisan, but they got a lot of right-wingers, in that think tank, which found that nearly $80 trillion in the United States have been redistributed from the bottom 90% of Americans to the top 1% over the last 50 years. That is what you see right here. This pay gap right here. This is $80 trillion being sucked out of your paycheck. You should be making every month over $1,000 more than what you're getting. And all of it is being funneled to the top 1%. Over and over again, my Republican colleagues have expressed their deep concern about the redistribution of wealth. Well, I hate to break it to you, dog. The redistribution of wealth is happening right in front of our faces. And now with Donald Trump, it's kicked into high gear. So every time I see or hear a Republican squeal, oh my God, you're talking about redistributing wealth. I hate to break it to you, honey, but redistribution of wealth happens all the fucking time. It just depends on which way it's going. It's like gravity. Redistribution of wealth is happening constantly, whether it's redistributing it to the working class or the lower class or even the middle class, or it is going to the upper top 1% or 0.01%. So it's happening, and it's happening right in front of our faces. Problem is that it has gone in precisely the wrong direction. Since 1975, nearly $80 trillion in wealth has been redistributed from the bottom 90% of Americans to the top 1%. Massive income and wealth inequality in America today is not only morally unjust, it is profoundly damaging to our democracy. Given this reality, we cannot provide another $1.1 trillion tax break to the top 1%. So when did he write this? Okay, so this was early in March. Well, we just did. It ain't 1.1 trillion. It's, what was it, $4 trillion that we just gave to wealthy people? And here is the backup for that. This is literally from the Rand Corporation, measuring the income gap from 1975 to 2023. The author extends prior work to estimate the gap between what workers earn in 2023 and what they would have earned with a more even growth rate from 1975 to 2023, the bottom 90% of workers would have earned $3.9 trillion more with the more even growth rate that would have amounted to an cumulative $79 trillion. That 3.9 is for 1 year. $79 trillion since 1975. These numbers differ from the prior estimates because of inflation, growth, and inequality, and a longer time frame. So here it is. Bernie Sanders is not pulling numbers out of his ass. He literally got it from the Rand Corporation. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that just so you understand where I'm coming from here. Redistribution of wealth has been going on for almost, I guess, 50 years now. In the last 50 years, we have funneled money out of our paychecks, or the government has, or the powers that be, or Ronald Reagan's, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. And to a certain extent, even the Democrats. Bill Clinton he was a moderate Republican. As far as I'm concerned, Barack Obama was a moderate Republican. But we have been funneling money out of regular working classes, people's paychecks and pockets into the very, very wealthiest of Americans. And you see it right now. We are looking at possible future trillionaires. It's not that far off. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, they're all in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So the days of us having the first trillionaire, not too far away. Meanwhile, our pay rates are essentially the same, going along with inflation, and our productivity is still going through the roof because we can do more and more. And now with Donald Trump, wanting to turn everything into AI, and companies are just so excited about firing employees because they have AI to do those jobs for them. And of course, kicking out a whole bunch of immigrants, thinking that that's going to raise the wages. Honey, I hate to break it to you. That just means that you are going to be doing that shitty job that you didn't want to do, that the immigrant is currently doing, but when they're gone, now you're going to be doing that job for the wages that they're getting paid. You think you're going to be getting paid more with this current system? Give me a break. Anyway, just a little update on your social safety net and how close you are to losing Social Security. Hey, it's a backdoor to privatizing Social Security. Aren't you excited? I'm totally excited. I'll have to talk to my dad about that when he starts collecting his Social Security. Let's see how it goes for him. I really worry about the people retiring or close to retirement, how much of a social safety net you're going to have. I am already under the assumption that I'm not going to have jack or shit by the time I retire, but just concern myself with, hopefully helping out my father or, your grandparents out there. Just keep an eye on them because they're going to be feeling the pinch pretty soon. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.